Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store. But yeah, guys, I'll go through my trade for the week first and then we'll progress into the analysis shortly after. So if there is a particular pair you want to skip to, feel free to do so using the timestamps down below. But I only had one position this week. I still am holding my dollar Swiss position from 2 weeks ago. We'll go through that in a second, but I had one position this week on NZD USD for some shorts, roughly around 90 pips. Lovely move to the downside, trying to catch that next third lower high. We had one over there, price broke to the downside, second lower high. So try and get involved in the third one, retesting some support term resistance here, and caught a nice move to the downside. And I'm actually still looking for more downside as well for NZD, so maybe you can get some more shorts next week. And like I said, still holding on to dollar Swiss from 2 weeks ago. Again, lovely move to the downside, really aggressive momentum. But since then, market has been consolidating, unsure what it wants to do. Almost came up and came back to my break even. But just before the week closed, we saw some downside coming back into that consolidation. So I'm letting the trade do what it needs to do. Like I said, already banked some partials, so worst thing happens, price comes back against me, I still walk away for a small profit, or maybe price goes and hits my TP. We'll just see what price needs to do. But yeah, still holding to dollar Swiss and only one position this week on NZD USD. Now getting on to the analysis. So Euro USD, which is over, can't find Euro, let's type it out, Euro USD. There we go. So Euro USD is actually looking very good next week. I'm liking the price action here. I'm looking for a lower high for the market to continue south. And this is actually what I was talking about last week with Euro. I said we had this lovely impulse move to the downside. So it looks like the market could be forming a lower high to continue its path. But I said I don't want to get in on the first lower high, and I'm looking for the next one after that. Hence, with my NZD USD position, I got into the third one. And again, Euro USD, I'm trying to see if I can get into the third one here as well. We've already got the first high up there, which broke structure. Then we got the second lower high, which came back into the resistance here. And now potentially we're getting that third one here as well, retesting some broken support on the left term resistance. Also got some nice trendline confluence connecting the highs there. So going to next week, if we can maintain this area, pretty much Monday morning, Monday London session, we'll be looking to short Euro USD, because again, we're already trading that area right now. We've already had a really nice spike to the upside as well on the full H. So what I want to see going into Monday morning is maybe some more wicks on the full H time frame, nice momentum on the hourly, showing me okay, we've got a strong bearish engulfing, momentum shifted from bullish to bearish. Let's get involved with that momentum and take it to the downside. And again, looking for a bearish move, at least back into these lows here. So that's probably where I'll have my first TP. As to where we could probably go next, I'll probably start looking at these lows. I'll take into account my risk reward as well. Not going to probably push the trade too far because it is a little bit counter trend for Euro USD, because we are still printing these higher lows here. Market's creating these higher highs. Market still might want to push a little bit higher back to resistance on the left. So it's a little bit counter trend these sells. So probably won't be as aggressive. My TP is a bit more conservative, but in terms of the quality of position, it's still pretty high. So looking for some sales next week for Euro. Keep an eye on 1.09200 around that area there. If we just break through early in the week and we start trading above here, then for me, I'll back away. We might start consolidating, because again, if we start respecting resistance and start respecting support, this will just be boxed off as consolidation for me. As you can see, we did just about pinch the lows there. So we do have some bearish structure, which is why I'm looking for sales. But if we start breaking above this area of confluence, I'll probably just scoot back and call it consolidation and wait for a better opportunity later on. So I need price to stay below that 1.09200, shorts back into the prior low 1.08400, then potentially 1.07800 as the final target. Okay, so over to dollar yen. So dollar yen still sluggishly moving to the upside, very correctively, very tightly knit. Again, you can see this kind of channel here, which the market looks like it's just broken through as the end of the week has happened and the end of the month as well. So as you can see, we have this tightly knit channel here. Again, difficult to find good positions unless you're on the lower time frames. And even so, it's been quite choppy there too. So I haven't really been a fan of dollar yen. My analysis for this one last week was looking for that bigger retracement into this area here. We've got some really good confluence. I think it lines up with the 0.618 back to the high, yeah, more or less 0.618 coming to that zone there. So this is the level I was looking to buy from last week, and again, that's still pretty much the analysis coming into this week. I'm not interested to take some buys up here. The market's too exhausted to run out momentum. I'm not really trying to buy this up at least on the 4H anyway. And now it looks like we're starting to break out that channel, so maybe we might see some retracement now for dollar yen, which could maybe present some sells, some counter trend sells in the lower time frames, which again, I'm not really after here in this bullish market. Again, like I said last week, I still think dollar yen's probably got a good possibility of reaching back at these highs, monthly, weekly highs as well. So I do see still a lot more upside for dollar yen. But first we might be looking at a deeper pullback first, and this is kind of the only level that kind of meets my criteria, that's got good confluence, that I would be confident looking to long from. So I'm keeping an eye on 141. Again, I doubt we'll see retracement all the way back there next week. If we do, I will of course look out for it, but maybe a position for the week after. So I'm not really interested into dollar yen going to next week, but obviously I'll keep an eye on this level because the market, you know, never fails to surprise me sometimes. So I will keep an eye out on this level here at 141, and obviously looking for a push probably back to highs. Really nice attractive risk reward as well, but this is the best setup I can see at the moment for dollar yen on the 4H time frame. Maybe, like I said, there's some counter trend sells, but I'm backing away from that, a little bit too aggressive for me. So we'll keep an eye on 141 next week. If we do get there, obviously looking for entry confirmation and some buys, and probably a swing back to the highs at 145. Okay, so on to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, nice push to the upside, breaking some structure here. As we can see, I'm still looking at the sales slightly higher up for dollar CAD, which we didn't quite get to this week. We had a really nice level of broken support here, just above or more or less around 1.33. As you can see, support once, twice, big moves to the upside. We snapped through with a very, very big impulsive candle. So I'm looking to see what we can do in the retest, possibly for some more downside. And as you can see, we've had some retracement this week. The market broke through that structure. So in the meantime, I do think there's some short-term buys for dollar CAD, at least back into that level. Potentially you could obviously break and go further, but I will be looking for sells and see what type of price action we can get there, possibly for another move back to the downside into this support level around 1.312. So for me, dollar CAD, I'm more focused on the sells, but I can definitely see some buys here. Again, I don't mean definitely as in it's going to work, as in I can see an opportunity to buy the market. Whether it works or not, yeah, that's just down to probability. So dollar CAD 1.33, looking like some good buys from 1.322 on the retest of the structure. Simple, you know, break of structure, retest, continuation. But for me myself, I'll be focused on 1.33 for some sells next week. Again, pretty much the same analysis from the week before. Price hasn't got to my zone yet, so there wasn't anything for me to do this week on dollar CAD, but we're much closer this week, so I do think we can get there, see what type of price action we get, look for some wicks, good rejection, momentum, and then I'll look for my entries for a push to the downside, looking for a continuation of that level. So dollar CAD I'm still bearish on, but I can see there probably is some upside to be had, so keep an eye out on 1.32 if you are looking for buys on dollar CAD. It's like a good level, really nice break of structure, looking at impulse, correction, impulse to the upside. So I do like what's going on here, but I'll see what happens at 1.33 for some sells later on in the week. Okay, so over to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound looks like we're getting a very slow reversal here, kind of like a bowl-shaped price action. If I highlight the major lows and highs, as we can see, it's kind of the market is slowly, ever so slowly shifting to the upside. So we had some nice bearish structure coming into play over here, some nice bearish structure, so lower lows and lower highs, and then it gradually starts to fall out. Markets start creating some higher lows, just snipping through the highs, creating some higher highs as well. Pull back, another higher high, and now I'm anticipating another higher low. And if I draw a line through it, it's kind of just gradual kind of bowl-shaped price action here. So I'm looking at potentially a reversal here for Euro Pound, also kind of struggling to break through a very key level of daily support on the left over here. If I drag that through, so the market's kind of tried to dip below it a few times, failing to really push away and now it looks like we're coming back in for another retest. And if we can hold this, I do think we can probably get a nice push to the upside for euro pound, probably completing that kind of bowl shape reversal. It might not necessarily be a reversal, but maybe a deeper retracement to continue south. We do have a very big level of support here, which could be looked to get retested. Maybe the market prints another low high, 1, 2, 3, 4 over there, and then we get a bigger sell-off. So it might not necessarily be a huge move, but definitely a move you can probably capitalize on in terms of risk reward, getting decent 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, and then possibly could be some sells later on up here. So I'm going to keep an eye on the sells here for euro pound, but again, I don't think we'll probably get there next week. So that might be a trade opportunity in the next 2-3 weeks. So I'll keep an eye on, but at the moment, it looks like we're getting a really nice bowl shape price action here, coming into some healthy level of daily support. We've got this trend line connecting these higher lows here as well. So I'm going to see what type of price action we can get here. If we can get a lot of wicks, rejection, looking for that next higher low, looking for a push, probably simply just back to the highs there. And then if we do get there, then I'll monitor for some sells at a later date. So in the meantime, looking at buys for euro pound at around 0.858. and probably looking for a push back to the highs, keeping it simple. Depending on the risk reward as well, I'll adjust to how things set up. But again, euro pound is quite choppy. I'm not trying to marry the trade and push it too far. It is counter trend as well. If it was pro trend, maybe I can get away with pushing my TP a little bit further. But when I am counter trend, I want to be a bit more conservative with my take profits, similar to the situation on euro USD. But at the moment for euro pound, I'm seeing some buys from 0.858, like I said, playing with that bowl shape price action, and possibly some sells at a later date. But looking for a push back up to 0.864 into that prior high for next week. Okay, so on to Aodu USD. So Aodu USD headed to the downside this week, which is what we were looking for. I did say I was looking for the retest of this support level here. Didn't quite make it. The market wasn't bullish enough to see that much retracement. We did have one big bullish candle. I might have tricked some traders and getting some longs here, trying to ride that momentum. And then obviously the market used that to absolutely melt to the downside. And again, we were looking at this bigger consolidation at play in the daily chart. So we've got the high of the consolidation, got the low of the consolidation through here. And we are looking at these breakouts as just, you know, big fake outs of the highs, big fake outs of the lows. And after this big fake out to the upside, we're looking at the market coming back into this support level here at 0.65700. So we're not quite there yet. We have definitely come close, but I'm looking at another final leg back into that support level, and then we see what happens next. Because long term, the trajectory for AUD USD is still to the downside for me, so I'm still looking at long-term price coming to the downside. I'm looking at long-term us snapping through the consolidation to the downside as well. But obviously, I'm a trader first, analysis second, so I'm always going to see what the market is doing and act accordingly. If the market is coming back into the consolidation low and respecting it, then obviously we might anticipate some more upside. But if we can break through, you know, take out these lows on the left as well, then yeah, shorts after that become very, very good, and we can ride this down to 0.62. But of course, that's probably some analysis we'll talk about at a later date. For next week though, I'm still seeing some shorts back down into the low consolidation, and then we'll see what happens from there. We're coming to have the retest of this broken support time resistance. We didn't get the retest when we did break through, so this is still the first retest, so it's nice and fresh. So I do think there's some downside left for AU. Again, this is kind of what I was looking for up there, but now we're getting it here. So yeah, for me, AUD/USD bearish bias. We've got this really nice kind of intra-week bearish momentum here. We're getting these lower lows, lower highs. So as long as we maintain that structure, I'm expecting us to at least return back to the prior low, which is around 0.659, and then into the consolidation low, 0.658, and then we go from there. But at the moment, I'm looking at some temporary sells, and there could be some bigger long-term sells in the works, but it's not quite confirmed yet because we're still trading in the range. I need price to break out of that before, you know, I start looking at some bigger sells. But at the moment, I'm liking the structure, really nice momentum. Looking at push to low, the trend probability looks pretty good. Higher time frame synchronicity as well. So yeah, some shorts for AUD/USD looks good next week. Keep an eye on 0.66659, bit dodgy that. And another push back down to 0.658. So yeah, keep an eye on AU for some sales next week. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So still bearish on this pair, looking at some more downside for this one. Coming into the week, we were looking for the retest of this consolidation, looking for the continuation back into the prior low over here on the left. Lovely move to the downside. We've got a nice pullback, nice wick into that level. So this is where you'd be looking for your entries. Nice move to the downside, taking out those lows. So for NZD CAD, bearish coming into the week and still bearish going into next week as well. Market still printing all of these lower highs here, so as long as we maintain that structure, I'm still pretty bearish. And taking into account what the higher time frames are doing, you know, monthly we're seeing a lot of bearish momentum as well. Nice move to the downside, weekly as well, lower lows, lower highs, daily too. So we have a lot of higher time frame synchronicity for some more downside. The only thing I don't like about NZD CAD right now is that we just pinched the low here, so it could potentially give us a deeper retracement, then fall over. But at the moment in time, we haven't broken structure, so I will anticipate this bigger pullback. If of course we break structure on the left here, then okay, we'll probably have a bigger pullback, maybe near enough to the highs there, and then have a bigger move back down. But at the moment in time, we haven't broken structure yet on the 4H at least, so I'm still expecting more downside coming back into this resistance here, which is around 0.881400. So what I'm looking at for NZD CAD is another move to the downside. Again, I would be not as too aggressive with the TPs because we've just pinched the lows here. So again, possibly a move back down to that same support, into that resistance there. This looks like a fairly good level to have as your TP. Again, you could probably push it down to the lows. We do have that higher time frame trend as well, but I just don't like the fact that we've taken out the lows. If we hadn't taken out the lows like we hadn't done last week, so we had this lovely move to the downside, we didn't take out the lows, so I knew this sell was a good probability because we still got liquidity under there, liquidity underneath this low for the market to take. Whereas now we've already taken that liquidity, maybe it's time for a deeper retracement. So that's the only thing I don't like about the position. But in terms of the structure, the higher time frame trend, you know, we have a lot going for it. So keep an eye on this area here around 0.813. If you can see some good rejection, some good wicks, bearish engulfing, probably nice move to the downside, back into support here, and that's probably where I'll call it a day. If you can get 1 to 2, 1 to 3 into that area, that's more than enough on this position into 0.80700. So NZD CAD next week, looking at sales, move to the downside from around 0.813 and back to those prior weekly daily lows for next week. Okay, so on to pound NZD. So coming into pound NZD this week, we were bullish, looking for another move to the upside. We did see that happen. We were looking for the retest of this structure on the left, beautiful retest, a lovely move to the upside, completing the move more or less into the 2.09 area, into this weekly level of resistance. This has been the target for the past few weeks now. Coming into this level here, you can see we just missed it by a few pips, but if I scale to the monthly, you can see we're pretty much in this area of resistance. So pound NZD for me is coming into some really key resistance here, which potentially could prove critical and could send the market back down again. But at the moment in time, again, my main focus is the 4H time frame, which is still printing higher lows here. So I'm still bullish for pound NZD until we break structure. If we break structure next week, then that's when I'll shift my bias to bearish and look for those lower highs for continuations lower. At the moment in time, the market is still printing these higher lows. So going into next week as well, same bias as last week, looking for a break and retest of this area here. We've got this nice trendline confluence 2 connecting the higher lows there, 1, 2, and 3. Now coming to this level here, if we can see some good rejection, some good momentum, we'll be looking for some buys for another move to the upside and simply back to highs again. Even though the higher time frame is still pretty bullish with pound NZD, you know, we're still seeing a lot of bullish momentum present. I'm not going to be too aggressive with the TPs because we're coming to some really key resistance, which I don't really want to be holding trades for too long into, because at any point we could, you know, see a quite hefty reversal as we're approaching some weekly, monthly resistance here. So as for me in the 4H time frame, I've still got to be bullish because again, this is where I get my directional bias. But I'm well aware of where we're going into and the levels we're going into. So I want to be making sure I'm taking my profit in the right areas, not trying to be too optimistic with my TPs as well. So I'll probably be looking at push back to the highs here, 2.088, and probably just call it a day there. If I can get 1 to 2.5, maybe a 1 to 3, that would be fantastic. But yeah, still looking to play these higher lows, 1, 2, 3, hoping we get a fourth into this area, around 2.07, retesting some prior resistance on the left here, turn support. So Keep an eye out for some buys. £4 NZD 2.07 is where I got my area of interest at. If we start breaking through this, I'll back away, and if we break structure completely, I won't be looking for buys anymore. But at the moment, we're still respecting structure, so still looking for those buys into next week. So keep an eye on that area for some longs and targets back to the prior highs for next week. Okay, so onto CAD Yen. So CAD Yen has approached a very key level of resistance, similar to £1 NZD. We're coming to some monthly, some weekly level of resistance. As we can see here, big move to the downside. This is the monthly time frame, by the way. This is the weekly as well, coming into some key areas here. So I do think that for CAD Yen, we're in an area we could retrace, especially taking into account how bullish we've been over the past few weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 consecutive bullish candles to the upside. I was going to count this one, but it's a doji. So yeah, 6 more or less bullish candles coming into this area. Haven't seen the bearish candles since. Coming to this level, we can probably anticipate some profit taking from some big players here. So I do think you can probably see some downside. I'm not saying necessarily a reversal, but there might be some downside which we can look to capitalize on. So onto the lower time frames, the 4H, you can see we're starting to struggle at the highs here, starting to print some equal highs. So I'm looking to see if we can reverse, break some structure, break out this kind of consolidation. Then I'll start looking for some lower lows and lower highs to short to the downside. So CAD Yen for me, I'm seeing some counter trend plays. And again, like I've said, with some of the setups we've spoken about already, with these counter trend plays, definitely want to be more conservative than aggressive. This is a lovely level of resistance we can look to pinpoint. Lovely level of resistance, multiple wicks into this level with support as well. So this support level around 107,500 could be a lovely TP, or even this prior low here too if you want to push trade a little bit further. But for me, for CAD Yen, I'm not really interested in buys anymore. The market's kind of really flew to the upside. So there might still be some buys if we do clear the high up here, look at the retest, but we're still trading within that zone. So for me personally, I'm more interested in the sells. So I'm hoping to see if we can break to the downside. It does look like some of the JPY pairs might be taking some retracement this week. Pound Yen looks like it might retrace. CAD Yen looks like it might retrace as well. AD JPY looks like it might retrace. And again, I'm not saying reversal retracement is a big difference, but they are showing a lot of signs of exhaustion in CAD Yen as well. So let's see if we can break through 108,500, get the retest of that, look for my lower highs, and then probably targets either into 107,500 or 106,750, depending on risk reward and how things set up. But yeah, CAD Yen, not interested in the buys anymore, approaching a very, very key level of resistance. We'll keep an eye out for some sales of 108,530 if you of course get the break to the downside anyway. Then TP is around 107,500 or 106,750 depending on the entry. Okay, so onto pound USD. So coming to the week, was looking for some longs for pound USD, never quite materialized how I wanted it to. Was looking for the retest of this structure here. Price was so close, it moved sideways. Then we had this big 4H candle breaking through, so never really gave me any entry signal. And we also lost some confidence with the trend line too. So the buys I was looking for pound USD never came into play, and ever since we broke to the downside, I'm now eyeing up some sells for pound USD. The market is looking at some counter trend play here. We'll print some lower highs. We have some equal highs up there. Another lower high, lower low. Market broke through that, giving us some lows there. Now I'm looking at potentially a lower high coming back to retest this level with that trend line confluence as well. Looking for another move to the downside for pound USD. So this is again definitely counter trend play, but I am looking at some more downside for this one. Again, we do have overall definitely a bullish trend in the market, but I do think we can probably come a little bit deeper before the market starts pushing bullish. We have a really nice level of resistance here. As you can see, let me try to go across a little bit better. We've got lovely resistance there twice, briefly a third time, resistance there as well. Support around 1.25300. So I'm looking at pushing to this level, possibly another higher low forming, and then the continuation. I think it lines up with the 0.618. Yeah, more or less does. And we've probably got some good trend line confluence coming into that play there too. So the way I see it for pound USD is that overall the market is still definitely bullish. It's difficult to argue against that. Push, pullback, push, but could be some shorter term sells for some long term buys later on, of course, if you do get the buys in the first place. But at the moment, going for next week, I'm interested in the sells for pound USD. We are approaching some nice resistance, some nice trend line confluence as well. So I'm looking at some sells from this area, 1.272, And targets, you know, can be safe to say back into that low there, or if you want to push it a little bit further, we do have that daily support around 1.253-254 as well, if you want to push the trade further. But for me, I'll just do it depending on my risk reward. If it's a little bit shallow coming into this low, this might just be my first TP and the second TP down there. If I can get a 2.5 or 1 to 3 into this level, I might just call it a day. Of course, the entry will dictate that, so I'll let you guys know during the streams next week. But yeah, pound USD for me, looking at sales of 1.27. If we can hold this level, that's fantastic. Shorts back into 1.26, and finally into 1.254 for next week. Okay, so over to pound CAD. So pound CAD, I'm not really liking the price action at all with this one. For me, it just looks like more or less consolidation. We've got some equal highs here. Market trying to break through, big fake out there a couple of weeks ago. Market was making some lower lows, but now it's making some higher lows. So it's difficult to make out what pound CAD is doing here on the full H time frame. If I do scale to the daily and the weekly, there's a bit more of an uptrend about it. Clear impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. Now this could be correction, or it could potentially be warming up for a reversal. You can see there's a big key level here around 1.68, which the market's kind of just fluctuating around, trying to break above it. Then it breaks above, then it can't pull away, breaks back below. It's been doing that for a while now. So pound CAD for me doesn't really have much clarity in its direction. So my analysis for this one is kind of similar to last week as well. I'm kind of waiting for it to start breaking to the upside and clearing out some resistance around 1.69, then looking for the pullback and the continuation, because at that point we've kind of got this inverse head and shoulders, left head and right shoulder. If we can break through that, the pullback after that will be of good quality, and of course looking for the continuation back into the prior highs, which is around 1.71. so I can see some really good buy opportunities. And that's about it, to be fair. But of course, we need that move to happen in the first place to actually validate that setup, and for us to start looking for buys, because more or less in here, I'm pretty much staying away. I'm kind of considering that as just as consolidation, and I'm just gonna keep my hands on my seat, because I can't really do anything in these conditions in terms of finding a good quality trade. Sure, you might catch a nice sell or buy, but is it a quality trade? For me, I know with my trading plan and my trading style, I'm definitely not finding good setups in these conditions on the full H time frame. So with pound CAD, I'll wait to see if we can get this move. If we do that, that will definitely take my interest, and we'll be looking at some buys back up to 1.715 as a continuation. But of course, need to wait patient to see if we can actually get that up move. If we start breaking to the downside, clearing out some lows, then okay, I can anticipate probably a lower high forming later and some sells like so, and the retest some structure, because then we've actually got some lower highs here. We've got a bit of a bearish trend to work with. Market's taking out some key lows. Then shorts around here will look good too. So I can see some good sells as well. But again, we need this down move to happen first. Just the same with the buys as well. So pound CAD, staying patient. We'll keep an eye out on break of structures, either past the high or past the low, and then I'll look out for opportunities accordingly. But at the moment, consolidation, not really interested in pound CAD. Okay, so now up next we've got pound yen. So pound yen still being very, very bullish, and again we were anticipating more upside this week. Looking for the break and retest of this level. As said, there could be some nice buy in the low time frames. If we scale to like the 15-minute, there was a really nice double bottom on this area here. Tested once, came again, really nice higher low, and some really nice continuations on the 15-minute. Again, not really my type of time frame, but you know, there's a clear buys there that look good, following the trend. Nice breaking test of that level, anticipating another higher low to fall. Since then, the market has become a little bit corrective, starting to fade at the highs here, but overall I'm still pretty bullish for pound yen. I will take interest in some counter trend sells if we start breaking some structure to the downside and print some lower highs, and then I will anticipate some more downside, but again, probably won't look for a push, a move further than this low here at 180. If we do break through 180, then I'll be looking at a lot more downside. But again, in terms of looking at counter trend sells, we need to anticipate that price will bounce from 180 rather than anticipate price will break through. If it does break through, then again we can probably hop back into some sales later, or you can maybe leave some small positions to trickle just in case. But it's always better to take your profits sooner or later, definitely when you're taking positions that are counter trend. So pound yen for me, I can see some sales this week for move to the downside. Like I said, it looks like the yen pairs may be looking at some retracements, but we do need to see the broker structures first, some lower highs print before we actually take any trades, or at least for myself anyway. 182 300, I'll keep an eye out for some sells on the retest of that if you can see a nice break through that. Again, respecting those highs, keeping that double top pattern if the market starts breaking through this. And of course, some buys in the break and retest are more likely, so definitely keep an eye on the buys as well. The bullish momentum is still present, so if we do break through, by all means, I do expect the pound yen to keep flying. But if we do see a nice break of structure, then those lower highs do look pretty attractive on the retest of them, and again some shorts into 180. So pound yen for me, I am looking at some retracement this week, some counter trend sells. We'll keep an eye on the retest of 182 to 80 and some shorts back down into 184 next week. Okay, so on to gold. Gold for me still bearish, market creating lower lows and lower highs as we can evidently see, still piercing to the downside, bunch of lower highs still present. So coming into this week I was bearish, and coming into next week as well I'm still pretty bearish, but I do want to see a bigger pullback into 1940. In fact, this is the level that I said I wanted to short from coming into the week. Didn't quite see it. We did have a retest slightly the week before, then the market created some lower highs early this week and then dumped to the downside. So I'm still looking for the test of 1940. Hopefully we can get another push into that area. Again, a lovely level of support will return resistance now. We've got some good trendline confluence, looking to capture that next lower high and then subsequently a move back down into the prior lows near enough 1900, which again is a very big psychological level and could well attract price back down there again. So the way I see gold going for me is still to the downside, still bearish. I do think eventually gold will snap out of it and start pushing to the upside, but at the moment, you know, we're still getting lower lows, lower highs. So until we get that break of structure, I want to keep looking to short the lower highs, and then when we do break the structure, then I'll change my bias. Very, very simple. So gold going to next week, keeping an eye out on 1940. That's why I look for my rejection, my momentum, my entries, and then targets coming back down into the prior low. Maybe this here could be the first TP, depending on risk rewards, but final TP will be coming to the lows here around 1890 for next week. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin hasn't really done much this week, still dancing around this resistance here. So again, Bitcoin for me just in a very awkward place. We're coming into a very strong level of resistance, which we have reacted a couple times now around 31k. So again, it's the weekly time frame, big level of support, gave us our last kind of major drive to the upside into the new highs, into 69k. And now the market has broken through that and retesting some key resistance underneath it. We had the original retest of the level, market came back down. Now we had another big push back into that level, which again could give us another move back down if it wanted to, or we could get a breakout into the next level of support, which I've got around here, around 35k, this level of support here, which again we broke through, never got the retest. So for me, that is a very clear level of where we could probably head to next if we clear this obstacle in our way. So for me, for Bitcoin, I'm just kind of neutral, because I'm not really trying to look to buy Bitcoin right now. If the market does break through this, then yeah, buys after that, riding that momentum, become quite attractive. I'm not trying to sell it either, because the market right now is displaying a lot of bullish momentum. But if the market does start breaking structure to the downside, then some lower highs after that become a lot more high probability, and we can anticipate a bigger push down. And same thing with the buys, if we break through, and then the pullbacks after that become a lot more high probability back into 35k. So for me, Bitcoin, like I said, is just in an awkward place, because I can see price going both ways. And again, I'm not anticipating the buys right now, because we're still obeying resistance, and we're still kind of just consolidating in this area here, kind of rejecting it, but not really doing much at the same time, moving sideways. So I'll wait for this consolidation to break through, pick a direction, and the trades after that become very, very attractive. The buys back to 34, 35, and sells back into the support we just came from, which is around 25k there as well. So we've got some mileage in both directions, but first we need to see that breakout first. In here, just kind of speculation and not see much clarity in which way we're going. But if we do clear 31,200, the break and retest after that becomes a pretty good setup. And same thing to the downside. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Like I said, just a bit neutral, waiting for price to do its thing. Again, we have a lot of bullish momentum, which it hasn't really depleted. It's kind of just moving sideways, which does give me the inclination that we've just had a big impulse, kind of a correction, bull flag, and now we're likely to see another impulse to the upside. So I would probably favor buys, but of course we want to be buying into resistance or trying to buy the consolidation, wait for the breakout, and then we can follow the momentum directly after. So this is what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Buys to 34, sells to 25, but right now we've got the consolidation at a very key area. So let's see which way we break to, and then we can follow the momentum after that. Okay, so last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which for this week is Euro NZD. So looking at some buys for this one, I really do like the structure. We've had a really nice push to the upside, it's quite corrective, but the market made up for that with this big impulse to the upside. We're seeing some heavy retracement right now, but we're coming to some very key areas, looking for the third higher low into this level. You can see beautiful wick there to the upside, a slight fake out there as well, and now approaching that same area. So if you can see some wicks to the downside, some aggressive rejection, shift the momentum, we'll be looking at buys for the continuation to the upside. You can see we've broken through this structure here on the left, and the market has since then created these higher highs and higher lows, looking for another higher low. And even if you follow the higher time frame structure as well, you can see is evidently to the upside. The daily, the weekly, still printing these higher highs and higher lows as well. So we're looking for price to come back and revisit the highs up here. If I scale back down to the 4H time frame, these are kind of the targets we're looking for, back into this daily, weekly, even monthly level of resistance, around 1.80500. So that is the goal there for USD. Beautiful structure, looking at continuation, coming to a very good area of confluence as well. So looking at entries pretty early on next week to see what we can do in that area, and targets back up to 1.80500, or even just into the prior low just underneath it, prior high just underneath it as well. That would make a lot of sense too. But in terms of the quality of the structure, we've got a lot of high time frame synchronicity, quality 4H structure onto a good area of confluence, just waiting for some good entry signals, because the market is looking quite bearish right now. So there's obviously a likelihood we could just obliterate straight through, reverse, and head lower, which is obviously a possibility. This all we can do as traders is talk about probability of price doing one thing over another. And for me, the probability of price respecting this area going up is a lot higher than it going down. So we're just waiting for some good entries to signify it's time to enter, and then we take our trades. But yeah, this sums it up for the video, guys. This is our bonus pair. Definitely will be on the watch list. If you're not on the Telegram, please be sure to go check it out. I will put my top 5 setups for next week. I do that every single week. Also on my trading view as well, which is linked in the description. And this definitely will be a setup I include in it. So do keep an eye out for that. But yeah, guys, this brings us to the end of the video. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. If you're enjoying the content, finding it useful, please be sure to do that. If you haven't done already as well, click the bell, hit the bell, so you don't miss out any streams or uploads on the future. Like I said, check the description for some links down below to my Telegram and to my trading view, and also to my recommended broker, IC Markets. If you are looking for a broker, feel free to check it out. If you want to use my affiliate link, feel free to do so as well. But guys, have a fantastic weekend, having fantastic relaxation. Again, end of our 6-month period. Make sure you go review your trades, review your performance, and set things in place for the next 6 months. I'll be doing that this weekend as well. But guys, have a fantastic weekend, and I'll catch you all next week.